Welcome to All Pro Football Data. My name is Jim Coburn, and today's episode talk about Jaylen Wright, running back out of Tennessee. In today's episode, we'll be looking at the production data of him, and we're also going to talk about kind of where he tests in terms of comparisons for him based on his production data, kind of see where he goes. Now, first off, one thing to mention before we get to the rest of the video, Jaylen Wright was named the second team All-SEC running back in 2023. Don't really know what you could do with that, but that is an interesting little accolade to kind of throw on the list for him. So starting with offensive market share data. If you're new to the show, new to the stuff that I do, this is how I get offensive market share production scores. You can pause the video and kind of look at it to see where I get these numbers from. But based on his offensive market share scores, he was not that productive. He had a 50 percentile total offensive market share production score. He had a 40 percentile receiving market share production score, and his touchdown market share score was in the 27 percentile. This is out of 2,312 running backs since the 1969 NFL draft class. Not going to lie, these numbers are not that great. What is decent about him is his running back efficiency scores. So if you're new to the channel, new to the stuff that I do, you can look at the efficiency scores here. You can pause video and kind of see where I get these numbers from. Looking at his efficiency scores, he had a 90 plus percentile rushing yards, basically rushing yards per touch rate, which is amazing. You know, he was basically he averaged over 7 yards per touch in terms of his rushing, which is ridiculous. But his yards per reception was a little bit lower. And this is again compared to running back. So he had a 20 percentile receiving yards per reception, but his touchdowns per, or not touchdowns, but yards per rushing attempt were much, much higher than that. So interesting little tidbit in terms of his data. And then his TD percentage was in the 80 percentile. So even though his touchdown market share wasn't that fantastic at Tennessee, he did end up in the end zone a decent amount during his data. So he was a much more efficient running back compared to just pure data, market share data for him. Moving on to adjusted production score. So adjusted production takes a look at their age, their strength of schedule, and their strength of team. It's the context production. How productive was he for his age? How productive was he for the team that he was on? And of course, how productive was he for his level of competition? And when you take a look at these numbers for him, the biggest thing that really helps him out is his age. He's a 96 percentile age prospect, but his market share data does lower his chances. His MSA rating, which is the rating that just takes into account his market share scores with his age and other factors, was in the 59 percentile. His pass rating, which includes his efficiency scores, put him in the 78 percentile, but he was closer to a starter than an All-Pro or Pro Bowl player based on his collective data as a running back prospect. So his contextual production makes him more of a starter than, say, an All-Pro or Pro Bowl running back. Moving on to his comparisons, here are some pro comparisons based on his offensive market share, MSA, expected approximate value score, and age score. Taking a look at these numbers, these are the running backs that kind of tested close to right in terms of his overall data. And to be honest, it's not that great of a group. A lot of the running backs that were really special were older running backs that played in offenses where there was more of a shared ball kind of situation, like the wishbone offense, I formation, etc. A lot of these types of offenses typically, share the football a lot more with other running backs. And when you look at Wright, compared to like more modern NFL running backs, let's say Alindo White, he didn't even have the same touchdown market share as him, so for the most part. So I would say Wright's production is a little scary, even when you adjust for his age, because he just wasn't that productive in terms of his receiving market share, his touchdown market share, these other sort of areas. So there's going to be a lot of projection with Wright that I don't like as a data analytics guy. I don't like to do projection based on information that we don't know. I think he should have started another year at Tennessee, improved his production, but he didn't do that. He jumped right to the NFL at a very young age, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I think he probably should have stayed another year to kind of have him improve his production overall, maybe improve as a player as well. based on his data. So moving to the outlook for Wright. Jaylen Wright profiles as a backup to fringe Pro Bowler based on his production profile. The benefit Wright has is his age and potentially his blazing speed on film. I mean, I've seen the film on him. He's a very impressive athlete in terms of his ability to eat up ground, uh, definitely. So he could become the fastest player in the NFL. But if he tests closer to 4.3, he would likely project to be like, say, the next Nile Davis, if you will. It's kind of the best sort of comparison for him. You know, a running back that has great athleticism traits, but just wasn't able to really put it together at the college level. And a lot of times those guys usually become backups or rotational backs at the next level. But, it's a big but, we've seen with certain players, Tyreek Hill, where if they have an elite trait where they're better than everybody else in terms of that particular trait, they could develop into something at the next level. So I'm not gonna leave out the potential that Wright could, if he is truly an elite athlete in terms of his speed, score, and other sort of traits. I'm not going to leave out the possibility that he could become a much better NFL player versus a college player. But based on the data work, based on the cumulative statistical data stuff that I do, he is a much riskier prospect than most. And I would say he really should be day 3 in terms of all the numbers for him, because I think it would be too risky to bet on him in day 2, even if he did test well as an athlete, because a lot of these types of players typically underperform. They really do. So there's a lot of question marks here, but that is my overall outlook on Jaylen Wright. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Jim Coburn. You can also check out my other work at Gymmetrics on X or Twitter, and also check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/jcoburn. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!